front lines should be reminded to keep up with the changes for the best good of yourself, the planet, and setting an example for those who search for a standard to follow. Be careful that the changes you follow is on the side of divine love and light that brings healing to yourself and to the world as a whole. We see from here many who seek a way of life that will fulfill the inner urging of the Spirit. They sometimes misunderstand and use things of the physical trying to satisfy the inner longing. I tell you, my beloveds, the hunger you feel is the unconscious remembrance of oneness with our Creator that is calling us to the warmth of His love, light, and healing. All on your planet, other planets and dimensions who know not the fulfilling touch of God's love are reaching out in many ways, trying to fill the emptiness in their hearts with things like drugs, the perfect mate, and many other things, not knowing that it is the love of their Creator they seek. We ask you to make a plan to keep up your vibrations with the aid of God's love, to help you think only loving thoughts, words, and actions that you would do in the presence of God. My dear ones, you are always in the presence of God, for He is the life force that you are. Keep your thoughts of an unconditional love nature, and you are always you are conscious of His presence within you. Now we can turn the Let us close our eyes and have a quiet time before the teacher begins to talk. And as I said before, remember that each one of you are lending your life force to this circle of light. And when you eliminate doubting or other thoughts that are not loving, that are not constructive, it will help to make the contact and make it more beautiful, the message more beautiful. Allow yourself to be free of tension and leave everything of the day outside of this room. Bring your full attention to this room and this moment, and allow yourself to be the beautiful beings that you are. Thank you, Father. Good evening, my dear ones. This is Gadon, greeting you from this side of the veil of the realms of love and light. As Donald has mentioned, we are privileged to have one individual from a very high level of consciousness that will speak to us tonight. He is one that is pure love, and I now turn this over to him. My beloved, it is with great joy and peace and beauty that I come to you this evening, especially when you have so many new ones in your circle. It is a wonderful feeling to touch in with you on your earth plane. I have talked to other groups such as yours in the past. So this is not entirely new to me, but you may want to be patient with me and let me and Donald adjust our vibrations as we move into this. When a new teacher comes into your group, and has not spoken through this channel before, it is a time of adjustment. And it is like a car that is out of tune, and it needs a tune-up. And there's nothing wrong with Donald or with me, but it is a time of harmony between us, adjusting our vibrations so that we can bring you a beautiful message from the Father's heart of love. We will have a time of questions later on, but we ask you to not ask personal questions, but questions that are in a spiritual nature or that are about the title of the group. Would you put some water in this pan, please? Thank you. Our title tonight is about this new age that is coming much more into view every day. We are in the new age. When Donald first started in this type of work, we were on the cusp about 30 years ago, but now we are fully into it, and you are seeing many changes. In the group that Donald was with in Oklahoma, the teachers talked about the changes coming, but they are now happening. Many changes over your planet, and many changes in your neighborhood and your country and all around. These changes, my dear ones, sometimes seem to be negative. They sometimes seem to be destructive. But I tell you, they are necessary to bring about this new age. It is a time of cleansing. It is a time of adjusting and bringing about the vibrations, the higher vibrations, to your planet. And in this time of adjustment, and I cannot say how many years this will be, but it will be a time that sometimes is turmoil and sometimes that is very beautiful. As you have noticed, some of the countries are getting their freedom that they have not had for a long time. This we have been working with from this side of the veil for many, many years, much longer than you realize. The work that we do from this side of the veil is just as important as the work that you do on your physical plane and the leaders of your land. When you learn to understand that you are never alone, that you are always in the presence of your guardian angel, if you'd like to call that your teachers or your guides, but in true reality, God is the life force that you are, and He is everywhere present. He is not off up in some sky somewhere. He is within you. And whenever you can accept this and realize it, you realize that you're always in the presence of God, every moment of your existence. And when you can learn to conduct yourself as if you were in the presence of God, then you are moving your consciousness much higher. You in this group are learning to be the beautiful God beings that you already are. And I say this in all sincerity, that you are God beings. You are. And when you can accept this, then you can move higher in consciousness by assuming the role of that which you truly are, and turning loose of the illusions of this physical plane, turning loose of the garbage, as you have called it, and letting in the light of God's love into your mind, into your heart, and into your thinking processes. When you can do this, not just once a week when you come to class, but all through the day in all kinds of situations and conditions, then you are moving toward being the master of yourself. And when you become the master of yourself, my dear one, you are the master of your universe. And as your master teacher said, I have overcome the world. And then in saying this, he meant that he had passed all the tests on this dimension, the physical plane, and he could do anything, and he did demonstrate many of the things just to let people know that they can do it also. For whatever he said to his disciples, he meant for everyone. And he said to his disciples, ye shall do the things that I do, and even greater. And I would have you to realize this. This is the one point that I would like to drive home tonight, is helping you to realize you're capable of so much more than you realize. Now, in the Donald Center here, for example, he has a class on making more money. And some have made a remark that this is not a very spiritual class. But you see, my dear one, money is just a symbol of God's abundance. And it is much easier to demonstrate material wealth than it is of breaking an old negative pattern that you have had for a long time. And when you begin working with yourself to align yourself with the vibrations of these higher planes of love and light, you have to eliminate the old patterns that you have brought from many lifetimes into this lifetime. For most who come to a class like this, they are in their final life on this plane, or at least they can be. It is always your free will to do with your life as you will. But most are tying up loose ends and getting adjustment to a few things so that when you leave this dimension, going through the experience that you call death, you can go back home, your real home, on the other dimensions, and not have to return again unless you so choose. To some of you, this may be a little much for you to incorporate into your thinking, but it is very important to everyone on this planet, no matter where they are in their consciousness or their soul's growth, to understand that they are not physical beings. You are not humans. You are just playing the role of physical beings. You are gods, and you have known your godhood in the past, long, long time ago, as you think of time. We do not think of time on these dimensions because time and space are part of the illusions of your lower dimensions. But when we speak to you, we have to speak to you in your language and speak to you to help you to understand in the best way that we can. So we have to use the word time. We have to use different terms that you would understand. For example, it has been eons of time, you might say, since you were in the Godhead, or what you think of as the Garden of Eden. And when you came out of the Godhead and started coming down to lower dimensions, this was a gradual thing, and you had your full knowing of your Godhood when you left the Father's house, when you left the Godhood head. These are things that you need to understand and to realize in the depths of your being. I have spoken, and I should say your teachers have spoken to you of this much of the time, but you need to be reminded. And as you go through your day, do remind yourself of your true identity. Remind yourself of who you truly are. For you are not this physical body. You are not your mind, even with all its hang-ups. You are a spiritual being, a God being. When you understand this, you can keep your thoughts high. And by going through classes such as this center offers and other places, many other places, you can learn to train your mind to eliminate the negative, fear-filled thoughts and think only loving, constructive thoughts. You see, my dear ones, your thoughts are the prism that life works through to reach the physical plane. Your mind is involved with this, and thought is the thing that you do before you do anything else. Before you speak a word, you have to think. Before you move your body or take an act, you have to think. And so it comes back to aligning your thoughts to the thoughts of the Godhead, to thoughts that are only loving. Anything less than divine love is illusion. Now, these are statements that you may not be able to simulate right now, but allow yourself to at least think about it and not close your mind to it. Because, my dear ones, when you really understand who you are on your way to being the master of yourself, to molding and shaping your life the way you really want it to be, to moving higher in consciousness every day and taking a step forward. And if you find some stones in your path that you trip on, you can either make them tripping stones or stepping stones. It is up to you. And it is not what happens to you, but it is how you react to what happens to you. When you trip upon a stone and fall down, you can either become angry and upset with yourself or somebody, or blame someone else, or you can look at this and say, this is an opportunity for me to grow, because it is something that I have not understood and have tripped upon. And as I understand it, then I can step upon this stone and reach higher in consciousness. There are many, many ways of saying these things, and there are many ways of your reaching the higher consciousness. There's many ways as there are individuals, because each of you are different. You are a child of God. Remember this, and know that He is your Father, your true Father. You came through your physical parents, yes, but not from them. You came from eternity that had no beginning and will have no end. Would you like to stop at this time for a while and give you an opportunity to ask questions? And when you do ask, speak up loudly so that it will get on the tape. Are there questions that you would like to ask this evening?
And yet, when we cast on, do we take our fault with us? Are these lots of?
You take everything but your physical body, my dear. You take all your attitudes, your moods, your feelings, your desires, whether they are negative or positive. And according to that, you are vibrating at a certain rate, according to your level of consciousness, according to your thoughts as a whole. And when you find yourself on the other dimensions, then you automatically gravitate to the level that you are vibrating at. Yes, you take it all with you, but you do not have to keep it. And when you find yourself on this side of the veil, if you are able to listen to the teachers of divine love and light and accept their help, then you can move forward very rapidly and work from this side to clean your house up and help others. Some choose to work with the people that are still in the physical, and others choose many other things. There is so many things to do in the universe. You would be amazed at how many things there is to investigate, to understand, and to work with to raise your consciousness.
Do they have new inventions on other levels as well as they do there?
There is a saying, my dear one, that there's nothing new under the sun that you have used on your physical plane. And this is true in a sense, because you have been here many, many times and on other planets, on other dimensions, where you came from eternity. And when your scientists invent something, they are just remembering it from the past. And in the class that Donald teaches of time travel, if you will remember, you had one class called Creativity and Talents from the Past. And so when someone invents something, it is something that has already been done, maybe thousands of years ago, in another age, but they may have been a part of it, or they studied it before they came into the physical, just to bring it in to your physical plane. There are many laboratories here. There are many schoolrooms and classes. There are all kinds of learning places for those who wish to bring in new things into the physical. Does this help your understanding? Yeah. Are there other questions this evening? It is difficult when you are new in a group to speak up and ask questions, but let me encourage you to, because it brings so much more into the class. You see, you add your life force so much more when you ask questions.
There's the question in my mind, whether it is a valid question. God created all of it. But if eternity had no beginnings, how do we reconcile that with the creation? When does that occur?
Yes, this is something that has been brought up over and over, and it is difficult for you to understand this, just as it is difficult for you to understand that there is no such thing as time or space, because you have been conditioned and programmed for many lifetimes. But since you were a child in this incarnation, that this thing that you sit on is a chair. And it is only a chair because someone has put that label on it. And this microphone is only a microphone because someone has called it a microphone. You see, everything that's in the physical, radio, television, is already within you. But since you have not learned to use your clairvoyance, you invent these things in the physical so that you can tune in on television around the other side of the world with what's going on. Now, I was explaining this to help you to realize that we come from eternity that had no beginning because God has always existed, and you and God are one. You were created out of the love of God, and the purpose for your creation was for God to manifest through. But He's given you free will, and He will not invade that free will. But when you can give Him back your free will and allow Him to manifest through you, then He can show you these things that are far above understanding in your language. There are not words to explain the things that you have asked about eternity in your language. All that we can do is try to explain it.
That sounds like it's the free when they give back our free will, when we no longer have a need to yes,
To express your little ego, yes. This is what you were thinking. And it is, that is when you and God then become one. You are always one with God, but become conscious of your oneness with God. It's when you can give Him back the free will and say something like this: Father, help me to be as you would like me to, as you would have me be. Help me to be to others as you would be to them. Father, I would be one with you, even in thought. Now, when you can say this and mean it, and spend some time every day going within yourself to have that contact with God, and it doesn't have to be in words, but just a contact, because you cannot help but be in contact with God. And when you sit in silence and ask Him to let Himself be known to you, then, and open your mind and your heart, then you will become aware of His presence. You will become aware of very subtle things. But you see, this is happening all the time. God is speaking to your heart at all times. But you have your attention on the outer physical plane so much that you do not hear, you do not see with the inner eye and the inner ear. And you have to learn to stop, slow down your thinking, and go within so that you can hear the Father when He speaks to you. There have been many on this plane who have accomplished this and then moved on to become masters. Many more than you realize. You hear about a few of them, but most of them who become masters and have dominion over this plane do not tell others about it. It is only those who God has asked to be open about it so that people will have an example to go by. Has this helped your understanding?
that's the slow self to be definitely won't get in the way. If we really can give up mad and yet it be kind of that's the point where we then have I remember.
Yes. You see, the life force is constantly flowing, constantly flowing through you, through everything else. And remember that everything that you see on the physical plane is of God, because it would not exist if it did not have life source. Are there other questions this evening?
You might be not meant for improving a person's life ability.
You would like a hint for improving? Is this what you say? Yeah. First, I would ask you to build a strong, solid foundation before you open up your psychic abilities. Sometimes people rush in too fast and open up and develop their psychic abilities, and you can do this without having the understanding. Now, when you take classes like this center offers and other centers, other groups that have spiritual teachers that help you to start at the beginning, there are some teachers on your plane that will take new students and start working with their psychic abilities right away. But this is not the best way. It is very important that you have a greater understanding of life and the laws of life before you open up these psychic abilities, as you call them. You have at least 50 some odd senses, but you only use 6 of them most of the time. You already are using some of your psychic abilities, are you not? Yes. And you have recognized this. And what you're asking is how you can improve this. And I would say to you, first improve your contact with the God that is the life force that you are. Improve yourself by building your foundation within yourself, strong and solid. When you have this strong, solid foundation, then you can move higher in consciousness to develop the things and do the things that the master teachers do. And then you are secure. When you have a strong, solid foundation to stand upon, then you are not so apt to fall. It is like this building. It has strong, solid foundation, or the walls and ceiling would not stand. Is that not true? And within you, you need that strong, solid foundation of understanding. This is the ingredients of your foundation, as Donald teaches you, that understanding the laws of life and how they work, not physical laws, not physical facts, but the universal laws, the laws that always have been and always will be. And then you can move higher in consciousness. And for some, their psychic abilities, as you think of them, just start opening up. Does this help your understanding? Yes. Donald has a saying, and I quote him because I am learning to speak through him, but it is difficult to communicate in a language that is so limited as yours when you are used to communicating with thought transference, as you might call it, and such a greater depth and breadth. But he has a saying, first things first, one step at a time. And when you do this and get things right the first time and then build upon it, then you are strong and solid, and you do not become frightened when new things open up to you, because you already have the knowing within yourself that you are God, and that many, many things are available to your consciousness. And I'm using the word consciousness here in a greater sense than you usually use this word. You see, if I were to say senses, it would mean a limited thing. But when I say consciousness, it is unlimited. And I hear you asking someone, what do you mean by this? You see, life is consciousness, and consciousness is life. Life is everywhere present, for God is everywhere present. God and life are one. God and love are one. And God and consciousness are one. So you see, it is all one life, and you and I are different expressions of this one life. And we are all different, and this makes it a beautiful thing, because it would be very boring if we were all the same, would it not? Are there other questions this evening? It makes the class much more interesting when you ask questions. And there are no silly questions. If it is a question to you, it needs to be answered. Would you speak louder, please?
Well, we still not here, but then not as much as Don. But it's sending a good comments that sometimes entities would attach to us and could influence our behavior, and sometimes negatively. And so I'm wondering about this.
Yes. Okay. When your thoughts are fearful and your consciousness is at low ebb, you are vulnerable to these entities who are earthbound. And they are earthbound because they choose to be, or because of ignorance. They do not know how to express in spirit, in the spiritual realms. But they have been given the opportunity to understand, but they have chosen to stay on these lower dimensions. And when you allow yourself to drop in consciousness through fear or depression or a lot of negative thinking, then you are open to that kind of thing. Now, my dear one, I would say to you, do not be frightened by this statement, because you have a guardian angel that is watching over you. And if you will, ask this guardian angel for help, it is there instantly. And Donald has written an article on sending God's love. There are many new ones here tonight, and I would ask each one of you to take one of these articles and home with you, because it is a very high form of prayer. And on the table by the door, there may not be enough for all the new ones, but there are some others we can get you. And when you understand how to be an open channel for God's love to flow through, you can surround yourself with God's love, or just send God's love to all the invisibles around you. And if they are of the darkness, then they have to change or leave. But if they are there to help you, then that opens the channels for them to help you in a much greater way. And for the one who asked about the psychic abilities, if you learn to send God's love to your teachers and your guides, this can help to open the channel so that you can make contact with them. And I feel, and can I ask you, that you have had some impressions and contact with your spiritual guides, the one who asked about that. Is that not true? Yes. And now I will go back to the other one. Did this help your understanding about this? Be not concerned. Your motive is your protection. Your motive. And when your motives are of love and are of higher nature, you see you're operating on that dimension. But through one day, you can operate on many dimensions. And if you greet the day with, oh, I've got to go to work, I don't feel like working, my head's hurting, and so on, in that kind of attitude, you see you have started your day in a negative way. But when you can open your eyes and say, good morning, God, I love you. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for this house or apartment that I live in. You see, gratitude is one of the most powerful forces that you have to use besides divine love. And I would ask you to consider using it all through the day. There are so many, many things to be grateful for. Are there other questions this evening?
I was wondering, you see, one idea or thought comes in your mind, and you're not sure about it. How can you tell? Is this where little self maybe playing from your world? It's really coming from your.
Yeah. Yes, this is a good question. And in the book that was written about the group that Donald moved here from Oklahoma, it talks about this very thing. Eloah was is their main teacher, I should say, and he was asked this when he first became their teacher, because they had interference with lower entities, and he promised them that he would give his protection. He had just graduated to the 6th dimension, and another teacher had asked the group if they would accept Allah, and they did accept him, and so they did not have that interference. And they asked the same question, how do we know if it's a good message? And he said, it is very simple. If it's good, it's of God. If it's not, it's not. Do you understand? Try not to analyze everything to death. If you feel good about it, then it's all right. But if you have doubts about it, then toss it out and turn your back on it. Does this help your understanding, my dear?
Very much.
Yes. This is a good question, a very good question. There are times when there are very many fine lines, as Eloah has taught, and there are times when it's a little difficult to tell whether it is of the lower nature or the higher nature. But when you feel good about it, then accept it. If it's loving, it's of God. But if there are doubts, then turn your back on it or put it on the shelf and wait for another time that your consciousness is a little higher so that you can understand it. Are there other questions this evening? We are having a good class this evening because you have opened up, and this is very good. And I asked this beautiful one next to me to check the tape and to get Donald the other cup of water that is on the tape recorder.
While we're heart, your delivery is very directly at a lot of thoughts in a short time. If we wanted to refer to your necessity again would be taught to refer the visible thing by what hidden word is. In what way?
Yes. And there are many times when we do not give a name. The group that Donald came to from Oklahoma, and Ella was their main teacher, he made this statement that your name is a peg you hang your personality on. And when you move into these higher realms of divine love and light, we are known by our light, our vibration, instead of the name. And I would rather have you to know me by the vibration that I am putting out, the love vibration that is of God that flows through me. And since each one of us are a little different, we will have a different vibration, a different way of presenting things. I have to work through Donald, so I have to work through his understanding of the language and the way that he talks. But I feel that you can tell there's a little difference, can you not? Yes. And it has been a very long time since I have been referred to my name. I have been in the physical in the past and had all the experiences that you are going through, but it has been a very long time ago. And you still would like to have a name.
No, I expected that. I already kind of finding a, opening up to this guy.
Yeah. Call me Joe. Yeah. Yeah. That is short for Joseph, isn't it? Yes. And I did have this name at one time, but not in your known history. So don't jump to conclusions.
We did have any moon in life every night.
And this is correct. All of us have. And we have had many personalities. You see, we make a plan before we are born, working with the higher beings, the lords of karma. And we come in at a certain time and come through a certain people so that we will have the opportunity to work out the misunderstandings of life that we have had in the past that you call karma. And so, yes, we have had many names and many different personalities before.
Yeah, for these people in the born, we choose our father and our mother, and they choose us. What do they mean then when they get to this the outcomes?
You're talking about what do you mean by getting rid of a baby? Abortion is what you're talking about. Yes. This is a very touchy subject on your plane right now. And I would say to you in this way that the entity who has been chosen to take this body does not enter most of the time, not all of the time, until after birth, after the child has come forth from the womb. But also, there's another answer for this. From this side of the veil and from these dimensions, we can know whether the mother is going to abort the baby or whether it is going to be accepted. Yes. We can see a little ways in the future. from these realms. These are very high realms. And you see from your surface point of view, you may be able to see a little way in the future. But when you see the larger picture, then we can know what will happen for a certain time in your future. You still have the free will, but we can see with the eyes of spirit. These are interesting questions that will be interesting to the ones who listen to this tape or read these things in the books that are being formed. Are there other questions this evening?
Yeah, thank you. What new things we see happening on dynasty and
in the New Age time? Yeah, the New Age now is over 2,000 years. And so there are many, many things that are going to happen. You are just starting in this golden age called the Aquarian Age. And this age is the most opportune time to be in the physical in the history of this planet, because your planet is now ready to be Christed. And I'm putting it this way to help you to understand. There are many Christs on in the universe. Jesus was one of them. And Christ is the only begotten Son of God, but the Christ Spirit is within each individual, each one of you and everyone else in the universe. So this planet is an entity just as you are an entity, and it has mothered you for a long, long time, and it is its time now to be lifted up into a self-illuminating star instead of the dark reflecting planet that it has been since its formation. And this experience has drawn many people from other galaxies and other planets to witness this. This is why you experience so many spacecraft, is because many, many are coming to be here to witness this special event, and it is a special event. But for you, my dear one, there is the opportunity to raise your consciousness to where you are the master of this plane, and you can stick around through this new age and be lifted up with the planet. Now, those who do not raise their consciousness, you see the vibrations are increasing every day on this planet. And it is not just moving rapidly, it is accelerating. And so for you to be able to stay with the planet, and you can reincarnate or keep the same body that you have if you can refine it enough, and have the same experience, which is a tremendous, gigantic experience. It is such an experience that I could not put in your language, but it is a beautiful experience. And this happens not too often in the universe, but it does happen, and it is your time for your planet to be lifted up into a star. If you were out in space on another planet looking back at the Earth, not from your astronauts, so forth, but I mean far out, you would not see light coming from this planet unless it was reflected from something else. Like your moon does not have light from it. Do you understand? Yeah. Is there anything specific that you would like to ask about the new age?
mine and their no Chinese and definitely minded now and top part.
Yeah.
Prepare them for
I would say this especially to be not afraid or overly concerned. Everyone is in their right place for the growth and the opportunities, the experiences that they need for their soul's growth. And you're not the physical body, and if it's destroyed, you are not destroyed. It's just like if you wreck your car, you have to go buy another one, don't you? And it is the same thing. You are not the car, and your physical body is not very much different than your automobile that you drive. It is a vehicle that you are using to operate through, to be in touch with the physical plane. Well, yes, if you become a master, then you can revitalize it and become younger again. But some choose to go through the experience that you call death and come back in another experience. It is according to each individual and the needs for their soul's growth. But this new age is a very, very special time. It's the most opportune time to be in the physical in the history of this planet, as I have said.